All right. I think we're live. We're in business. Today, we got an on-market property in Huntsville, Alabama. Pull this deal up for everybody so you guys can see. Just in case you guys are Instagram, again, you guys want to see the full screen version, definitely hop over to youtube.com/@count_HG. All right, so today we got 36111 Penny Street, Southwest Huntsville, Alabama. What I'm going to do today is assume that I'm going to analyze it using a conventional financing method, and then I'm going to figure out whether or not there is a creative scenario that can work for this property. Okay, so we'll do this together. So the first thing I do whenever I see a property is obviously go through the photos, check the condition. Now, this caught my eye because it's essentially a turnkey property. So I thought to myself, okay, if it's a turnkey property, then I can start working backwards, right? What is my buy box for a turnkey property in Huntsville, Alabama? And just for those that don't know the area, Huntsville is a pretty solid market. It's right in between Birmingham and Nashville. All right, so this is the area that had probably under $225,000. I do a quick street view drive-by. I'm just looking for any signs of like boarded up homes, trash, appliances all over everywhere. But this just looks like a regular suburban neighborhood. I don't really notice anything. Doing a quick drive-by. Yeah, doesn't look that bad. All right. The next thing I want to do is just get a quick crime score. So if I go to tophap.com, tophap.com, I'm going to come right here. Let me plug in the address. What is it? 3611 Southwest. After you plug in the address, it should pop right up. If you go to the neighborhood section right here, you can get the crime score right here. Ooh, that is really high. 169. This is probably one of the highest crime scores I've seen for quite a while. 169 is really, really high, guys. So I don't love it. That's probably enough for me to rule it out. But hey, for the sake of the deal, let's keep analyzing this one out. I don't know really that much about Huntsville. I just heard it's a good area, but maybe there's a reason why this house is so cheap, right? So let's keep on going. So the next thing we want to do is we want to get the FMR, HUD FMR. And you can do this by simply Googling HUD SAFMR or HUD FMR, whatever you want to do it. Click on the link that's the Smart FMRs. Look up 2024 Smart FMRs. Go to Alabama. And then what you want to do is get the county. So just in case you guys don't know how to get a county, I'm on Redfin and I just do a quick control find and I'm able to get Madison County. So when you get Madison County, you want to come back here to the HUD FMR website, type in Madison County, and now you're going to get the fair market rent by zip code by bedroom count. This property is in 35805. 35805, and you're going to see here that the rent for a 3-bedroom is $1,260 and the rent for a 4-bedroom is $1,510. $1,260 and $1,510. I'm going to note all these numbers down and I'll write all this stuff. And the reason I do this is because my partners are pretty well aware of how I analyze deals. So when I take note of everything here, which is a good habit, but then they already know that I've done the research, and if they really, really think it's a deal, then they'll probably corroborate just by doing the research, but at least they know where all these data sources came from. Now, hey, how's it going? And then the 3-bedroom rent, for the market rent, we'll go to affordablehousing.com. And you go to the owner section, scroll down to the market rent estimator, and you're going to plug in the address. 36111. Let's see that'll pop up. Close out the top tab. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put in the bedroom count for a 3, since it's a 3-bed, 2-bath. And you'll see right here that the average rent, the most important number is going to be here on the far right. The average rent for 25 units within a 0.7 mile radius is $1,287. Okay, I'm going to note these numbers down. $1,287. 0.7 miles. The zip is 1356. The city is 1607. And then the county is 1650. Okay. And then I'm also going to get the rents for a 4-bedroom. Why? Because I want to see whether or not there is a huge lift involved when you turn a 3-bedroom to a 4-bedroom in terms of rent in this area. You can see that when we looked at the FMR, it went from 1260 to 1510. So roughly around $250 difference. But you can also see that the market rent went from 1287 to 1777. Big difference, right? Big difference. So there's definitely a demand for 4-bedroom homes in this market. And that's why every market is going to be different. So this allows you to think about, well, what if I do turn a garage into a 4-bedroom, right? These are the data points that you want to have in place to think about whether or not it's worth that investment, as an example, to convert a garage or spend the additional cash to do it. We've looked at other properties where or other markets where the 3-bedroom to a 4-bedroom rent only went up by like $80. In those cases, not worth the investment, right? Not worth turning a 3-bedroom to a 4-bedroom because the market just doesn't have the demand for it, nor does it support rents that high. All right. So here is the main comparison. When you had the FMR of 1260 and you see that the market rent is 1287, this gives me pretty good confidence that I can charge 1260 because that is technically the rent ceiling for this area code that HUD deems as fair or Section 8. So I'm going to put in here as 1260 for my rents right now because that's going to be assuming it stays as a 3-bedroom. Okay. Let's get a few more numbers in here. I'm going to come in here and get the property taxes. This is $38 for property taxes. Seems really low, but I'll put it there for now. And my homeowner insurance is $174. That's really high. And I'm going to do equals 174 times 1.2 because I assume that the insurance expenses for a primary residence home is going to be cheaper, which is usually what this insurance number is noted as on Redfin. So I just added 20% premium because usually the insurance premium for a rental property is going to be higher. All right. Next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and estimate the rehab. Now, this property is in pretty good shape, right? So I might set aside some money for termite issues just in case, but I don't need to paint the place. I'm gonna set aside $450 to replace the toilet because I always like having the high pressure flush toilets because that usually reduces the amount of calls. I'm gonna zero out any flooring changes, zero out any painting because it does look really turnkey. Normally, I still put in money at $3 a square foot to paint the place, but this property looks like it's been flipped and is turnkey. I got $5 to keep the landscaping clean, and I got $1,500 to replace the roof just in case there's any issues because I don't think I saw. Was there a new roof here? Let's see. Guerrero, blah blah blah. New stainless steel appliances. Yeah, nothing here about says new roof. Oh, boom, new roof. So I don't need $1,500 for a new roof. So all in all, this gets me to an estimated rehab of $2,300. So I'm just setting aside $2,500 roughly to say, hey, what if there's some dings or things I just need to kind of freshen up before I rent it out? Okay. Now, this property is listed right now at $225,000. So when I come in here and put in $225,000, you can get it right from Home Depot. Home Depot, I can even look up Home Depot Kohler high pressure flush toilet. Boom. I'll show you right here. These are your high pressure flush toilet. Usually it gives like 1 gallon or yeah, but this is what same models that I have, the 3505, I believe. But something for you to figure out and think about whether or not that's something that's going to be in your interest. All right. So sorry, minor deviation, but I like answering questions from people just to kind of keep it interactive, you know? So next thing we want to do is now that we got the taxes, we got the insurance, now we want to assume that we're paying a 25% down, and I'm going to assume my interest rate is about 8.25% right now. Now, my financed amount is going to be equals to the asking price less the down payment. So if I'm at 25%, and this is going to equals to asking price times 25%. So I'm going to be putting down 56.25K, and I'll be financing $168,000 at 8.25%. There's no more commissions. I got 2.5% closing costs. I got $2,300 for the reserve. Okay. I got my renovations right here to calculate my cash and cash return. I'm setting aside 10% every single month. I might lower this to 5% because it's really, really turnkey, but it's also in an area where it's higher crime. So I'm going to be a little bit more conservative and just put 8% right now. Normally I'm always 10%, but this property looks like it's been pretty much brand new. So set aside $100 each month. That seems pretty fair. I got a property management company in here that will do it for 8%. So I'm just going to adjust it. Normally I'd underwrite with 10%, but I just know that I already have a property manager in Alabama. So they charge me 8%. Now the vacancy here, now you are in an area with a higher crime. So this is just me thinking out loud, right? You can make any number work in a spreadsheet. However, if you're in a high crime area, you never know where it's gentrifying. I don't know that much about the area, so I'm going to be a little bit more conservative. So even though I saved a little bit on property management and in maintenance, I'm increasing my vacancy because I like to be realistic. If I'm in a crime score was 169, I haven't really underwrote a property with a crime score that high before. So I'm going to underwrite it with a little bit higher vacancy, right? So it's all the thought process that goes into why are you putting that number in the spreadsheet? Because you can put any number you want in the spreadsheet, okay? So what this results in right now is a cash flow number of negative $519. So assuming my rent, let's talk about the scenarios, right? Assuming my rent is $1,260, I would be negative 520, just kind of keep numbers easy. And this would be a negative 9.7% cash and cash return. Now it's assuming a $225,000 purchase price with a 2340. Okay. Now you all might be wondering, like, okay, Ken, this is clearly not a deal. Why are you going to keep underwriting this? The point is, I'm trying to teach you guys how to create your buy box, because it's very important for you to filter out the noise and stop analyzing deals that probably aren't deals, right? If I see a property in this zip code that at $225,000, even though it's turnkey, that won't cash flow, am I ever going to underwrite another turnkey property in this zip code at $225,000 and higher? No, right? That's the whole point of this exercise. So the next point of this exercise, well, what would make it a deal? If I turn this asking price into, let's say it's $100,000, okay, now I'm at 7.45%. Okay, if I want to meet 10% cash and cash return, 85,000. There you go, 90,000. So at $90,000, assuming everything else stay constant, right? I would now cash flow $242, and my cash and cash return right now would be 10.7%. And that was assuming I bought this conventionally on a market for $90,000, assuming my rehab was still $2,340. Hopefully that makes sense for people, right? This is how we develop the scenarios to determine what would make it a deal, right? Just remember, every single property, there is a number that makes it a deal. All right. The next thing I want to do is, well, what if I turn this into a 4-bedroom property? Okay. Well, let me see if this is even possible. Is there a garage here? Okay, there is a garage. So what if I turn this garage, convert into a 4th bedroom, and now I can charge 4 bedrooms? Why might that work? Because I could see an extra lift of $250. Now I'm going to assume that it's going to cost me additional let's say it's $20,000. $20,000 to convert the garage, being conservative here. But I can increase my rent to $1,510. Why? Because that's my FMR for the zip code for 4-bedroom that we saw earlier. So it's at $1,510 now. I had to spend additional money to get this additional rent. But now, what am I willing to pay for this property now that my rent is higher? 100 grand. Let's see. It's roughly 100 grand-ish. Okay. The reason why the cash on cash return didn't jump up higher is because you are using cash out of your pocket to renovate the property. Now, if I'm borrowing this money, let's say I borrow $20,000, and I subtract this by $20,000. and I borrowed this at 10%, yeah, it's still not going to work. So let's just kind of go with the current scenario here. I'm going to assume that I spent $22,000 on a renovation to turn this into a 4-bedroom. And now at $110,000, that's not a deal. At $100,000, it's 9.25%. At $97,500, that's roughly 10% almost of a round up. So if I get to $1,510, but I spent additional $20,000 in rehab, I can now be willing to pay $97,500 because I can now charge the rent for a 4-bedroom. Hopefully that makes sense, right? Even though I'm spending additional $20,000 to convert the garage, I can now afford to pay $97,500 for this house because I am going to turn this into a 4-bedroom property. $397 cash flow, and that's going to equals to a 9.7% cash on cash return. Okay. But this also tells me that, hey, if I ever come across another 4-bedroom home that has a rehab of roughly $22,000, I'd be willing to pay $97,500, right? See how you're developing your buy boxes for the zip code? Like as you go through it, you figure out like what will turn this into a deal, right? All right. Next thing I want to do is, well, what if I assume this is a creative finance deal? Now, how we're going to go about it is we need to figure out whether or not there is an underlying loan in place. And I like to use PropStream just to kind of do a quick search and figure out whether or not there's an underlying existing loan. So when you go to PropStream, right? So right then and there, we've analyzed the deal, assuming a conventional finance deal for this on-market deal. But what if you're direct to seller or direct to agent and you want to reach out and give a creative finance offer, right? How do you know what to even offer? So when you go to PropStream, you plug in the address, and once you plug in the address, you can click on a details button. When you go to the details button, you can click on a mortgage and transaction history button, and that's going to show you whether or not this property has underlying loan, and it does not look there's underlying loan. Looks like someone bought this property all cash. Okay. Now, if this was a homeowner, maybe it was probably a flipper. But if it wasn't, and let's assume that this was a person that just owned a home for a really, really long time, and they own a free and clear, and now you want to propose a creative finance deal to them. So if they own a free and clear, now you get to get really creative. You get to play around with all these scenarios and say, well, how do I turn this into a deal? Now, if I assume that the property is still going to be a 4-bedroom property, I'm still going to pay $22,000. What am I willing to pay on creative terms? So let's keep it going, right? Assuming it's $1,510. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play around with the down payment and interest rates on the loan, right? Because I'm asking the seller to become the bank. So if I turn this into a 10% down payment and my interest rate now is 5%, I'm trying to achieve a 15% return now. Let's go stick with 10, right? So what would I be willing to pay? 8%, 6%, 7.75. All right. So I would be willing to pay the seller. Oh, whoops. Sorry. Let me update the number back. So the purchase price now is $225,000, right? Remember that. I am now turning the property into a 10% down, and I'm assuming I'm only offering the seller right here on the top, right here. I'm assuming I'm offering the seller 0% interest, but they get to get the price that they're looking for, right? This is the whole idea of how do we pitch creative finance deals. So if I say, hey, $225,000, I'll give you 10% down as long as you can give me the terms I want, which is principal only payments or 0% interest rate. That's going to give me a 9.12%. That doesn't work yet, right? What if I turn this into a 5% down? Okay, now we're talking. So at $1,510, I would be cash flowing $352. I would be a 10.8% cash on cash return. I'm still paying $225,000 on this property, assuming my rehab is still $22,000. Just carry that forward so you guys can see what has changed. Well, this hasn't. The purchase price is the original purchase price. The only thing that's different is that I'm giving a 5% down now, and my interest rate is 0%. Okay. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. Well, some of you might say, like, well, what if the seller wants a higher down payment? 25% doesn't work anymore, right? So you now know, even if I turn this into a 4-bedroom property, the max down payment I can probably afford to get is probably like a 7.5% down payment for 16 grand. So now you know the terms that you'll be willing to offer the seller if you were attempting to turn this into a creative finance deal. I'll do one more scenario here. Let me go back to 1260. Let's assume this was a property that I'm keeping as a 3-bedroom. So my max rent is 1260. So what does that mean? I don't spend $20,000 anymore to convert the garage. So my cash outlay is lower, but I'm still trying to achieve a 10% return. What would that make it? So if I go to 5%, so it continues to make the same decision, right? Going back to 60 rent, I will now be cash flowing $155, assuming all my expenses stayed the same. My cash and cash return now will be 9.7%. I'm paying $225,000. My rehab is still $2,340. I'm paying a 5% down, and I'm giving 0% interest. See how all these scenarios still made it work? That's why in the scenario, if you got this on a creative finance deal, hey, Aria Profit, definitely just DM me your email on Instagram and my team will send it to you tomorrow. And this is a spreadsheet I got from other folks. I just kind of modified it to meet my own way of underwriting. This is not investment advice. I'm not soliciting any investments, but this is a way that you guys can go forward and do it. Now, here's another takeaway that I got from this. If I got this in a creative deal, right? Think about it. My cash and cash return is actually the same whether or not I turn this into a 4-bedroom or 3-bedroom. And if you think about it from an execution risk standpoint, meaning you have to go get permits, you have to manage a contractor, I might just be better off, to be quite honest with you, keeping it as a 3-bedroom because I don't have to go through the headache. Because if you think about it, my cash and cash return is literally the same besides for 1%. But my cash outlay is a lot lower because I'm only spending $2,500 on a rehab instead of $22,000 on a rehab. Again, this all required a 5% down payment. Now, if you were smart and there was actually a scenario, and you guys can look at some of my older underwriting deals on the YouTube channel, I've gone through some scenarios for on-market deals where I had to show you like, hey, I can give 5% interest or 3% interest or even 1% interest. But you can give the seller an outline of how much interest they're making, right? If you're giving them a 10-year balloon, what they're walking away with is based on how the amortization schedule works. The first 10 years of interest is mostly it's mostly interest. That's just how the principal and interest schedule works. So that's how you would be able to pitch a seller to offer them like, hey, this is my offer terms. I can give you, if you want me to just go on the market, I can give you a deal for $90,000. But if you're willing to give me a creative finance deal, I'll give you the $225,000, assuming you can give me a 5% down and 0% interest rate. And you can negotiate the balloon whatever you want it to be. So that is how you determine and come up with the steps and the scenarios that would make something a deal. Because remember, every single property has a set of terms that makes it a deal. And you're going to have to determine what your cash and cash return criteria is. Typically, I look for 15%, unless it's in an area where it's really nice, great schools or whatever. But for me, this property, because of how high the crime score is, I'm not going to pursue it. What you want to do is use this underwriting, right? The rehab calculator is great, but it's not going to be exact. This is not what you're going to want to use for every single market. I updated just based on some short-term rentals I had, based on some long-term rentals I had, and updated based on some numbers that I got before. Every single market will be different. The point of this underwriting is for you to determine whether or not it's worth your time to, one, get a realtor out there, get some boots on the ground, look at the property, or to send a contractor out there to give you a better bid for the property. That is the goal of this underwriting session. It's not the be all end all, because once you get somebody out there, they might see something that you could not have seen on the photos, right? These photos look pretty and amazing, but they're virtually staged. They might have been shopped, so you really don't know. Right now, I'm assuming I don't need to paint the place. But what if someone walks in and someone broke in and now there's squatters there, right? That is the whole point of the underwriting exercise at this point. You're simply determining whether or not it's worth your time, because that's probably the number one reason why a lot of people burn out and they quit real estate. And that's because they spend all this time without any results. And this is the implied work of real estate investing, unfortunately. In order for you to buy 1,000 deals, you're probably going to have to analyze 10x that. So if you want to buy 100 deals, you probably have to analyze 1,000. So today, what I'm really hoping that I can inspire all of you to do is copy the same deal I underwrote today and use the same spreadsheet and analyze it again tomorrow, but pick one sentence or one line I said that I did not explain as well and just do it better than I do. And then if you do this for 365 days, I've done it straight for 123 days. So I know it's possible. And if you create that habit, it's going to be an amazing habit. If you create this habit and you do it for 365 days and you do it for 18 minutes a day only, you will be better at underwriting deals than 95% of America. And all you have to do right now, all I'm asking for you to do is just copy home. You're just copying homework right now. Copy what I'm doing, put it on your own YouTube channel, using the same deal, same spreadsheet. Just do it tomorrow. And now all of a sudden, you're going to give yourself that confidence. You're going to be able to look back and say, hey, I know what I'm doing. Because I remember when I first started and I was so scared. I was so scared of losing money. And in order for you to get over the analysis paralysis, you have to have confidence. And that confidence is going to come from you and your undeniable track history of doing the work, analyzing the deals every single day. And that's what's going to allow you to pull the trigger, because your partners might be asking you, like, why do you think this is a deal? Well, at that point in time, you can refer them to your own YouTube channel and say, I know this is a deal because I've been looking at deals for the past 123 days, and these were all not deals. That's how I know this is a deal. Might that inspire a little bit more confidence? Might that make you look like you're really consistent? Might that make you look like you're really disciplined? Would you think those are the traits of people that you might want to invest with? So thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Thank you so much for going through this underwriting session with me. Thank you so much for all the feedback. And most importantly, thank you so much for caring about affordable housing. Without people like you guys, I would have never had the home I grew up in. So thank you so much. I love this community that we're building together. And I love that we're just doing the work together every single day. So thank you. Have an amazing night. We're going to be back here again tomorrow, and we're going to stay consistent. So just do it with me and stay consistent with me. All right. Have an amazing night, and I will be back here again tomorrow.